This is Randy Osborne of Worldview Truth, and we are at an event. It's called Israel, You're Not Alone. Big event, been going on for a few hours, a lot of speakers. We brought in some of the top people, experts in the United States, and you're one of them. We have Doron Keidar, and give us a little bit about your background. This is amazing when I heard some of your background. Mm-hmm. But you are a American Israeli.
Yes, sir.
And you were in the IDF for a number of years. Tell us a little bit about what you did in some of your background.
So a little bit about myself, born and raised in Israel to American parents. So actually most of my family live in the United States. And I had the privilege because of that to also serve in the IDF. Ended up in a combat unit, did the whole pipeline for NCO training, and a bunch of specialty training as a combat soldier. Ended up being mainly deployed in the Gaza Strip before the pullout. So I started my service back in 2003. And ever since then, I've been in the Israeli reserves, up leading to October 7th. And now for the past 2+ years, my team and I have been fighting in a special forces unit, reserve unit, that's a special mobility unit, is about the little of what I can say. And part of our missions have been to retrieve terrorists and bring them to justice, so bring them into questioning in Israel, to our intelligence community. It's been retrieving bodies from the battlefield after October 7th. So our very first mission was a week in, where you had bodies that were rotting out there for a week. And so just that whole psychological dealing with getting people's bodies back to be mourned over and having closure. And then we've also, most recently, during the end of these 2 years of fighting in Gaza and operating, we were able to retrieve 7 hostages outside of the negotiations.
Oh, wow.
Through our covert work that we've been doing and helping and assisting different aspects of our military. And so that's been part of the honor and privilege of, again, bringing closure to those families that for over a year, I think close to 2 years with the last people that we retrieved from Gaza, unfortunately they weren't alive, but it was closure for those families. And again, it was outside of the negotiations, so that meant we didn't have to give terrorists to get these people back.
Right.
So that's just a little bit of the missions that we did and have been doing throughout the past 2 years now.
What are the accusations of really, I've heard this, and I know for a fact it's not the case, but we can address it. One of the accusations was Netanyahu had a stand down order out when the attack happened October 7th.
Yeah, that's incorrect. So first of all, Netanyahu was not the one who was able to call for war. What he had to do is declare that we're in a state of war. And for the prime minister to do that, he had to convene the whole cabinet, the war cabinet. They did not convene in time. So it dragged out his decision making and being able to greenlight the IDF to basically call up people like me to war. Being that we're at the tip of the spear in my unit, we got called up irregardless. So our high chain of command just made the call before the government made the official greenlighting for our guys, because we understood what was happening and how dire it was. So we showed up anyways.
Right.
Many other units did. So a lot of the special forces community, for example, basically just said, we don't care and we're not waiting for a green light from our chain of command. We're going because we understand what's happening and we're communicating with the military that's being engaging with the enemy. But I understand where that misconception comes from, is because there was a delay in troop movements, in calling up of the big IDF, if you like, to counter what was happening, because it was chaos. Yeah. It was chaos. You had our eyes on the ground. All of our camera systems were knocked out by the terrorists because it was a well strategically planned attack. So they took out our eyes, they took out our communications, and then they were also ambushing our bases and taking them over. So there's no one to talk to. There was no one to give you eyes on the ground, what's happening. And so, so those caused a delay in troop movements and engagements with the enemy. Right. But a stand down order, nobody really stood down. If anything, it was people that took initiative, and more commanders or generals should have taken initiative and and just sent soldiers, irregardless of waiting for government orders. But that's part of the reality that we're under. Is the IDF is subjugated to the government, and it is what it is.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yes, sir.
Tell me, in the United States, we look at this afar. I will never forget this day. That's my birthday, and
What, October 7th?
Yeah.
Wow. Well, mine is Pearl Harbor Day.
Well, there we go.
So
we got something in common here.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And my father fought World War II, by the way. So,
wow.
So I come from a long line
There you go.
of patriots and war fighters and whatnot. So yes, sir.
But I remember that day vividly. It was a day that I'll never forget. And it's just one of those moments. I remember when 9/11 happened.
Yeah.
I remember exactly where I was at. And what happened. It was one of those moments.
Yeah.
But here's the question that for some reason people in the United States, they don't think that can happen here.
Yeah.
Tell me why it can't, or why it can.
Yeah. First of all, I'm part of a group of U.S. military veterans, Special Forces community, CIA veterans, human targeting experts that basically give us the care packages of where the bad guy is. So, in other words, the tip of the spear of counterterrorism here in the United States, together with the tip of the spear of Israeli Special Forces guys. And we've come together to help each other collaborate, sharing intelligence, sharing information. And based on the intelligence that we have, and just to name some, you've probably heard them online. You have Scott Mann, who's here from Florida. He's a former Green Beret officer. You have Sarah Adams, former CIA targeter. These are some of the people that I've been working with, and we've been collaborating in order to really try to assess what threat for the United States is possible. And what I can tell you is, based on what we have gathered, an October 7th style attack is imminent. It's not a question of if they're going to do it. It's a question of when, right? And that's very, very sobering. You need to understand that what they're planning is not just what they did to us on October 7th and what they did already in the homeland here in the United States in 9/11, but it's to dwarf what they did in 9/11. It's to dwarf what they did on October 7th. And basically, they take the lessons learned that they've learned, just like we take lessons that we've learned, and they tweak it for the next attack that they're planning for America. And they've been planning this for years. They've been strategizing. And unfortunately, because of legislations and laws here in the land that are being taken advantage of by these Islamic extremists, they are, or jihadists, right? They have been able to embed themselves into American society for decades. And they've been planning this major attack after October, actually pre 9/11. Actually, they've been planning this for years, and so it's not like a new thing that they're conjuring. Right. But what's coming? It's a culmination of all of these many years of planning and strategizing and having sleeper cells that will be activated instantly. And what we anticipate is they're going to hit soft targets: schools, hospitals, churches. They're going to go after police stations like they did for us. They're going to go after interchanges, strategic interchanges. That basically, if law enforcement gets hunkered down here like they did to us in Israel, then they're not able to react to this school or church or hospital that's being under attack. They'll go after your police stations, so that if they take down the police station, there's no dispatch. There's no one to pass communications, and it causes absolute chaos and mayhem. So, yeah, it's an imminent reality, unfortunately. I hope I'm wrong. I hope Sarah Adams is wrong. I hope Scott Mann's wrong. And I hope all the other people that we've been working with, I hope we're all dead wrong. That's my hope. But to hope for it not to happen, to believe it won't happen, to live in denial, to say, I don't want to think about it. Like I've heard some people in America say, oh, I just don't want to think about that. Well, you're preparing yourself for death. You're preparing yourself for absolute chaos and destruction and like a doomsday scenario that will overtake you. You don't have a choice in the matter, but you do now to prepare. You do now to strengthen your law enforcement, to strengthen the government that gives the backing for law enforcement to handle this and get them extra budget and training and counterterrorism training, because they're not trained to do that. And that's why I'm here, actually. I've been here in the United States in the largest police conference called the Alert Conference, where they teach rapid response training for law enforcement to counter active shooters, active killers, etc. And I'm bringing in our lessons learned from October 7th to empower your men and women who are downrange. That combined with what they're already getting, they have that edge now against these terrorists.
Amazing. That's awesome. So you think it's imminent?
100%. It's not even a question. But again, I hope I'm wrong.
Well,
I hope I'm wrong on these things.
Yeah, but
the way we say it is, you prepare for war, live for peace.
There you go.
Right?
There you go.
That's what helped me on October 7th. My team and I, we're special forces, IDF reserves. We get all the training that most of the combat units in the military don't get. We get extra days, extra training, extra budget, everything. It wasn't enough for us. So my team and I would, because we were preparing for something like this. We didn't know it would be this scale, of course, just to be clear, but we always wanted to better ourselves. We wanted to add to what we were given. It wasn't good enough, is what I'm saying.
Right.
And because of that, one of my teammates, terrorists, walked into his house in Sderot, and he took him out. He took out the terrorist with his handgun. Why? Because he trained.
Yeah.
He went further, always further, as the SAS say, for example. They say always further. Because the idea is that push yourself further and beyond what the status quo is, what you're given. And if we can push ourselves in special forces, how much more for those who don't get those extra training in the tip of the spear of resources and whatever.
So in law enforcement, training.
Train and train more.
And if
like your life depends on it. Because it does.
Yeah, that's good. Well, I really appreciate you coming to this event. It means a ton to us, and it's so critically important because this is something that we all just kind of want to sweep under the rug.
Correct.
You know, it's a church event. Don't have to worry about it. It's church.
Yeah.
You know, people do church here. You don't have to worry about. And that's so far from the truth. It is a soft target.
Yes, sir.
The places in the United States that people hit are soft targets.
Yes.
That's what they do.
As we're speaking, we have 3 terror attacks.
That's right.
We had the Brown University shooting, which, to my understanding, last I checked, they're still at large.
Yeah.
You have across the ocean in Australia, terrorist attack on soft target, the Jewish community that were celebrating Hanukkah, the first night of Hanukkah, because they're on the other side of the globe, so they started, and we just had it here, celebrate it. And then you had, well, technically it's not here in the United States, but it's 3 service members that were blown up in Syria.
That's right.
By a suicide bomber from Giuliani's inner circle, from his, and Giuliani's the head of Syria, by the way. He is the one that was welcomed here just a few weeks ago by the President of the United States into the White House, received as a diplomatic leader of Syria, when, as I've been saying, Sarah Adams has been saying, and others have been saying, he's a terrorist.
Yeah.
He's the head of Al Qaeda of Syria. Why are we welcoming him as a diplomat, as a rightful leader of Syria? He took over Syria with his terrorist thugs. And guess what happened? Because the United States opened up that door, 3 officers, key leaders in the Middle East, Americans, blown to bits by one of his men.
It was one of his men, wasn't it?
It was one of his inner circle. I'm not talking about some low-level thug.
Yeah.
We're talking about his inner circle of the leadership. So we gotta take terrorism a little bit more seriously. We got to regain the will to do what it takes to win in war that the United States lost after World War II. Israel has not had, I don't think, in any war since 1948. We have adopted that same attitude. We don't treat the threats that are imminent to our societies, and to fight it and do what it takes to win in war.
That's right.
We play nice, and we have Western values and everything that weaken us, and we need to meet and match the enemy where they're at in the games that they play.
You have to defeat the enemy. You have to defeat the enemy
completely, and do what it takes, though.
Exactly.
And it means to do things that are ugly.
Yeah.
They're not going to look good on television. They're not going to look good on news interviews. But who cares? It's about our survival. It's about our culture. Do you care about it enough to do what it takes to win a war? It's that simple.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you for all you're doing, and thank you for helping us try to figure that out, because that's a big deal. Thank you for training our people too.
Well, it's helping each other, because I train you, we get trained back. It's a 2-way road.
Thank you again. Worldview Truth.